So, if you guys are not aware, here in Canada, this is from my south of the border friends, here in Canada, we are having a leadership race for the Liberal Party because Justin Trudeau, the traitor of Canadian values and everything that was Canadian, totally sold us out. But apart from that, he has a lot of ethics violations that it seems like the RCMP, which is the Canadian policing system, are just not touching him with. And that's a different rabbit hole as to why they have continuously allowed Justin Trudeau to walk free and not charge this man. Long story short, we have a leadership race because he stepped down. And he stepped down triggered by Chrystia Freeland, who was his deputy prime minister and also the minister of finance. She resigned both of her portfolios the same day when she's going to be revealing our country's budget. Because if you held government the next day, a non-confidence vote was going to be tabled. We would have triggered an election. You would have been removed. And then the Liberal Party would have all of the time in the world to find a leader. But no. You said, you know what? I'm going to resign, but I'm just going to suspend government and have my party figure themselves out and then get a new leader. And then, we go from there. So all these tactics, I'm just baffled that this Liberal Party has been allowed to do these type of disgusting, self-serving moves, and somehow the Canadian political system and climate allows it. And then someone said that there's a loophole that could make the new leader, who's not elected by Canada, elected by his party members, to now rule over Canada for another until another 2 years. Apparently, there's a loophole that can make this happen. It's just crazy, these fine prints that are out there. So we'll see what happens. So as a result of this leadership race, they have kicked out 2 contenders. One they disqualified with no reason. And the last one they've disqualified, and she has said it's falsified reason. Now, I'm going to play you a video from Mario. He's amazing. He shared a video that a Liberal insider did an interview and actually said out loud what they're going to do with this contender. And actually said out loud what they're going to do with this contender. And all of a sudden, this contender is disqualified exactly the way she said it's going to go. However, the caveat is that it might not have been legitimate. It might not have been legitimate terms. But listen to what she said. And right shortly after, they disqualified her. And they actually broke the news to her, meaning the candidate, on live television while she's being interviewed by this very same platform, the CBC government media platform. She went on the platform for an interview, and breaking news right while she's there that she's disqualified. So they did not even give her the decency of letting her know. It's just so disgusting what's happening. But on top of the disgust is what Canadians are allowing to happen, who somehow is making this hockey the pivotal moment of your patriotism. It's just galling. Out of everything that Justin Trudeau has done to your country, you're going to allow him to rah you up and be patriotic over a hockey game. Not over the violation of your human rights. You weren't riled up for that. You weren't riled up for him bringing in a lot of ideologies that are communist. That didn't rattle your feathers. It didn't rattle your feathers of his decimation of our economy, our country, businesses, the lives that were lost, the skyrocketed data of fentanyl, opioid that's happening here, the crime, the catch and release, all these things that Justin Trudeau allowed, all the scandals, oh my gosh, that didn't ruffle your feathers to be patriotic. But a hockey game brought out your patriotism because apparently Donald Trump is gonna annex the country. That's what got you in a kerfuffle. Donald Trump was putting his country first and is actually forced and giving you a wake-up call. Even your veterans and your military were sounding the alarm, but that didn't ruffle your feathers when everybody else was saying it. But when Donald Trump held up a mirror to you and you got to see how ridiculous your country is, then you're offended that Donald Trump did what he did, which is cause you to look at yourself and look at who has done it. And all of these publicly known scandals and things that was happening in real time to our lives during this extended lockdown that only Canada held its citizens under. Everybody else got the Coles notes and the wake-up call that, okay, let's reopen. But no, Canada doubled down and you allowed it to, because Justin Trudeau has figured out the formula on how to successfully gaslight the liberal base and the progressive conservatives. Him and Doug Ford has a winning formula and it keeps winning. This video from Mario is going to show you again, they publicly tell you what they're going to do. They do it and you just sit back and you just twiddle your thumbs. So here we go.
They wanted to keep Ruby Dhalla off of the ballot, and they wanted to complete the coronation of Mark Carney. I believe by disqualifying me, that was their road to paving the way for their blue-eyed boy, for Mark Carney, to become the leader of the Liberal Party and Canada's next Prime Minister. For the party to humiliate me by announcing the decision while I was live on air with CBC Power and Politics, which, by the way, is a government-funded entity, to disqualify me on air, I think was not only humiliating to me, but it was a humiliation and an attack on democracy for the millions of people in Canada that believe in free speech, that believe in fairness, and that believe in justice.
And honestly, this is the type of stuff I would expect from North Korea. And to me, this is not normal in any way, shape, or form, especially by the means of how you found out about it. Now, what did they render their decision on? Because, and I know you filed an appeal. And the thing that I find absolutely insane is I personally went on the Elections Canada website and I made a video talking about the abnormalities that I found with Chrystia Freeland. And there's about $30,000 of that abnormalities that I found. There's people who donated twice the maximum amount under the same name. There's 6 people under the exact same household. Did they check if they all used the same credit card? And what business, like how could you know what credit card was transacted upon? And, how couldn't I just do that to Mark Carney? Can you explain to me, what the appeal process was like? What chance you were given, if any at all, and let me know about these abnormalities, please.
Well, it was just all very bizarre. One day they went and did all of these leaks to the media and had their own talking head saying that I was going to get disqualified because of foreign interference, and they let this play out through the media the whole day. I then went on and created a video which I posted to my social media, channels, saying that regardless of this Liberal leadership race, I would not allow the Liberal Party of Canada to paint any person of color, any person from an immigrant community, or any Canadian from a multicultural community with this airbrush of foreign interference. I said, put the leadership race aside. I'm here to stand up for immigrants in our country, for people of color, and for all multicultural communities, and all those that believe in democracy. Just because I was here running for a leadership race for the highest political office as Canada's Prime Minister, I'm a person of color. The Liberal Party had no right to taint not only myself, but even others, that may want to run in the future with this brush of foreign interference. It was only after that video went viral all across, Instagram and Twitter, that the party then put out a clarification stating that, do you know what, these allegations actually have nothing to do with foreign interference. I think it actually wasn't foreign interference after all. It's actually the Liberal Party, the establishment, and their egos that are interfering in Canada's democracy. In addition to that, they were speaking about these donors, who had donated on a credit card. If a husband and wife choose, because of their right, that they want to donate on a credit card from their joint bank account, who is the Liberal Party of Canada or anyone else to tell them how they are to do their donations? If they had any questions, it's very simple. It's an administrative issue where you are required to do an attestation. That attestation form was sent to the appropriate people, but to go and then make up all of these false and fabricated allegations to have me disqualified, to keep me off of the debate stage, to keep me off the ballot, and then to try to complete their coronation to Mark Carney, it's just absurd, it's unacceptable, and not something that I will allow the party to do, not only to me, but to all of the millions of Canadians who believe in democracy.
Born in Canada, is that correct?
Yes, I was born in Canada, and it is just shocking that the party would actually make me feel like a second-class citizen because I don't have the right color of skin.
That to me is the most disgusting thing, and that's how I see it myself. I came to this country as a refugee. I was not born here. English is my second language, and when I see a person of color getting kicked out, you have Chandra.
The second one, yeah.
And then now you get kicked out. Like it begs the question: like, are we at a point in time where we have to recognize the fact that will the Liberal Party of Canada never accept someone of color and only accept someone that looks like Carney? And look at the rest of the people that are there. They're not people of color. And when I'm looking at it, it's like we have. Are they concerned about the amount of people that they let into the country? Like, they let in 1 million people per year. Brampton, I believe, is the fastest growing city in Canada. And it's all coming from the same region. And so it's almost grotesque, and it's almost contradictory, where they want these people here, they want them, they want their votes, but they don't want the leadership.
So you can take over on his page and take a look at it. I'm happy, as I said, this happened after I made the comment. It's funny, the thing about this conversation of immigrant and person of color. As a melanated person, it's always funny that within the persons of color community, they have their own racism, bias, and their whole caste system against other people of color. I find the people of color that like to play the people of color card when it's against them. When it's time for them to actually show if they are for people of color, you see their hypocrisy. Because all of this conversation, she's making it sound like she's the only person of color, What about FrankBaylis? FrankBaylis is a man of color. His mother is from the beautiful island of Barbados. He is one of the four. And he is bilingual. Ruby isn't. So I'm not too sure how she was going to participate in the French debate. So again, you're wanting to be the leader but not want to follow the rules. So when people of color like to throw the people of color card, but you don't want to follow the rules that's already established, this is where we have that friction. Because again, are you supporting what the people of color are being labeled as? Like, we don't want to follow the rules of the place that we immigrate to, that your family immigrate to, and then you were born here. This is the pushback that is happening, that with the mass immigration, it's like they're coming, but they're not following our rules. They're not adhering to our social standards or our morals. They're defecating wherever. These are allegations. We saw the pictures, the videos. They're just making the Canadian landscape not quote unquote Canada anymore. And here you are wanting to run for the leader of the country, but it's on the books that you have to be bilingual, but you're not bilingual. So this is why I said in my post, are you just talking, or are you going to show action? Because now finding out that you're not bilingual by listening to some other commentary and getting to know her a little bit more, I was like, okay, but you're not bilingual. How can you run? You're not bilingual. So here you are wanting to change the rules. That's number one. Number two, you're not the only person of color, Ruby. Like, you completely look over FrankBaylis. He's there. How come you want to position yourself as the only person of color? Ruby, you're not the only person of color that's there. FrankBaylis is there, and he's bilingual, official bilingual. He actually is the only one that is represented from Quebec. His mother's from the beautiful island of Barbados. So this is the thing that from the outside, people don't understand what happens within the community of the people of color community. We have our own biases and prejudice within, where people of color don't like other people of color because you think that you are more non-people of color than them. See, let me explain something to the outsiders. You have people of color that play the people of color card when they want to be like, oh, I'm a person of color. But when they're in the room, they act like they don't want to be a person of color. They actually want to be more Anglo-Saxon than people of color, because they look down at their noses of other people of color, because that's where the colorism comes in. I did a whole directive research when I was doing my undergrad about the caste system within the whole community of people of color. And growing up in the Caribbean and coming to Canada, I see it all the time where these quote unquote people of color only want to play the card when it suits them. But they don't know how to get along with the other people of color, because within the community of people of color, they have their own caste systems. They have their own colorisms. They have their own hierarchies based on their hue, their last name, their region, their financial status. So it's always funny for melanated people like me to look and listen to people like Ruby and just see how she moves. This is what we'll say, we see how she's flexing. The way she's flexing, all of her conversation completely disqualifies the fact that FrankBaylis is there. You're not the only person of color there, Ruby. And Frank is bilingual. And he also was a sitting MP. And he was also self-made. Go on Frank's website. You get to know more about him and find out more about him. And better yet, listen to both debates. He did very well. And actually, his contribution was the only one that was different. And he did not mix words. Even when the pointed question was asked, how do you differentiate yourself from Justin Trudeau? So so there is an outsider on that panel. FrankBaylis is the only outsider. It's the only one who's not associated with Justin Trudeau. So if people want to vote for someone, Liberal Party, because we can't contribute because we're not a Liberal member anymore. My family were Liberal supporters, loyal Liberal supporters, immigrants. We believe that the Liberal Party was a representation of us, because again, too, Liberal and the color is very synonymous with where our party affiliation was from our country that we came from. So when we come to Canada, you try to find, where do you fit in on all different type of envelopes, right? So the Liberal Party didn't help. It definitely helped the fact that Pierre Trudeau is the one that my parents came under. So again, want to show gratitude for the government that allow you to come in. That's just who we are. We are people who are we are very grateful, and we show gratitude and loyalty to a fault. That's why the Liberal Party has been able to sustain, because of the immigrants. However, in saying all that, just like Mario and many of us, even Leslie Lewis, who's now the Conservative, when she did her interview on Mr. Peterson podcast, she also talked about her family was also Liberal, until she's like, hold on, this party does not represent who we are, because it got more progressive, and then we're like, hold on a minute, who are you? So the classical liberals, who we fundamentally are, we start seeing that the classical Liberal Party was no longer classical. It was going further and further and further to the left. Then it come real radical. And just like Mario, I came out of it, like, I don't know when he came out of it, but I came out of it years ago. And for sure, 2020, when that came around, it was like a stamp of approval that, yeah, you definitely do not represent my values. So there are many classical liberals who have left the Liberal Party, and many of them have gone to the Conservative Party, because the Conservative Party and the classical liberals, we have a lot in common. And if you have the time to go and look at the recent interview of Kemi, who's the leader for the Conservative Party in the UK, on Jordan Peterson's podcast, she had an amazing interview as well, and she shared the same thing. That's why people who are melanated, the conservatives, are like looking at us like, oh, are you a Trojan horse? And we have to look at them and remind them, like, calm yourself down. We are more conservative than the conservatives that I see right now. That's why the progressive conservative Doug Ford party, we know he's not conservative. And you conservatives that keep voting on a brand and not seeing that your brand has been co-opted. So classical liberals and real conservatives, we have more in common than we have different. So that is why you see a huge support for the federal Conservative Party, because a lot of classical liberals are saying, yeah, this goes in line with what we're about. And the progressive conservative on the provincial, you're also going to get a wake-up call sooner or later, because your grassroots, they're just sleeping at the wheel. So when Ruby Dhalla is talking about she's the only person of color, she's not. FrankBaylis has been there for a while. He is on the panel, so he also was able to raise money. He is officially bilingual. So he has followed all the rules, Ruby. He's not trying to muscle himself in. And this is what, when I got to know more and more about you after I did the Exxon post and I saw your video, I was like, but hold on. Apart from just not being qualified financially, are you telling me in the Liberal Party you can be, like, you don't have to speak French? Because I would think that is part of the criteria. That's what I would think. That to be the prime minister of a country that is bilingual, that you have to be bilingual. So if you're telling me there's some fine print where you can be the leader of a federal party and not be bilingual, then we all need to know this. Because as far as we're concerned, and what we thought is that you had to be bilingual. So to me, that should have been a disqualifier, but apparently the money is. So this is what makes me now question, what the heck does it take to become a leader of the Liberal Party, but also just federally? I thought you had to be bilingual. That's what I thought. But Ruby's situation is an eye-opener on that issue, because it didn't disqualify her because of that. It's because of finances. So that tells me you don't have to be bilingual then. This is just something that we all assumed, but it's not mandatory, evidently enough. So there's a lot of things that we really got to become more knowledgeable about, because there's a lot of things that we assumed, and now things are happening to show you that no, that was a wrong assumption. Because the disqualification, if they wanted to make this clean and easy, you're not bilingual. Boom, done. There's no racism there. You can't call someone racist. You can't call someone corrupt. Can you speak French? Are you bilingual? No, you're automatically disqualified. That is, to me, easy. But it seems that that's not a disqualifier because that was not stated. So that makes me now know that you do not have to be bilingual to become the leader of a political party for liberals and the leader of the country. Maybe the other parties have their own party rules where you have to be bilingual, but obviously that's not part of the Liberal Party rules. So FrankBaylis is there. He is a person of color. He is a self-made businessman. He was elected MP. He is an outsider. He also was the only MP to stand up with that MP, that female MP that Justin Trudeau got kicked out of his party and then she became an independent. He was the only Liberal MP that stood by her side. He crossed over and sat with her when she was an independent, and he stood with her. He was the only one. Why? Because he is a person of color, and he knew exactly what happened, and he didn't care if he pissed off Justin Trudeau or anybody else. He stood up in the House of Commons and he went and sat with her, and he was an elected Liberal MP at that time. So when you want to talk about character and you want to talk, FrankBaylis has shown. So it's kind of funny that I have to find out that Frank exists after doing research, because Ruby is making it sound like she was the only one. And again, it just shows to me, because I am a person, I'm melanated, and I've lived in this melanated community of different hues, and I experience the racism, the prejudice, and the bias within my community from people that would be from Ruby Dhalla's demographic. I've experienced it. And if you look at the continent of Africa, when Ruby Dhalla's people of origin go to Africa, we hear all of the stories on how they treat our people there. Like, it's so, for us, we look at Ruby, we give her the benefit of the doubt, and when we get into the story, we're like, oh, okay, no, I'm sorry, Ruby. We see exactly what was happening, but I still appreciate the fact that you went on and you said your narrative, you said your piece, that you had your opportunity to say your piece. But the more I look into you and I find out the other reason why you never ran again, why you resigned from your position, that's a scandal that makes me kind of be like, there's a little bit more to your backstory, right? Whereas with Frank, I haven't heard, read, or come across any scandal with Frank. And the reason why he did not run again, he basically said he did not come in to be a career politician. He came in to make some policies, did make some changes. He felt like he did that and he moved on. And now there's an opportunity. So go on Frank's website, get to know Frank. So for all you Liberal paying members, if you want to stick it to the party and they didn't elect your girl Ruby, and you're saying this is a person of color and you want to, support someone of color, but also someone who has merit, you have FrankBaylis. So we are going to see if you're really, truly people of your word. If this really was about having someone of color and someone who has merit and someone who can represent Canada and the Liberal Party, you don't have to feel disenfranchised or feel like your hands are tied. Yes, it sucks that, your money for Ruby, you may not get it back, because trust me, the party, I don't see you getting your money back, because this is not the first time they've done it to people, okay? However, you still have your opportunity to vote. So all Ruby Dhalla supporters, if you're truly about equality and, supporting immigrants and, supporting self-made Canadians and support hardworking Canadians and support those that has the immigrant story, and if you're truly all about that, then we'll see Frank come out on top, right? I'm just saying, if it really is what Ruby and everybody of her supporters are saying, don't act like you don't have a choice. FrankBaylis is fully qualified. Go and see who he is. And if Ruby was truly all about the immigrant power, why is she supporting Chrystia Freeland? Because in her two of her stuff, she's like, oh, I hope they don't do it for Chrystia. And like, so no, it's a woman thing. So it's a woman and an immigrant thing? Which one is it? I'm trying to figure out, because there's another woman there. I'm just saying. Miss Gold is there. I don't see you saying, I hope they don't do it to her. So it's either you or Chrystia. So it's really not about being a person of color, because you have another person of color there. If you really want to support and be all about, supporting your own, I'm just saying Frank is there. So, and it can't be a woman thing because you have another woman on the panel, you didn't support her. So we who've been on the on the other side of the hypocrisy with the people of color card, we see right through this. Because if it really was about that, you would be supporting Frank. If it really was about unity for immigrants and people of color and getting someone who's merited, someone who has their platforms and the things that he's presenting, you would throw your support and tell all your members to support Frank. I'm just saying. Another person of color who was the MP, the one who was kicked out of the Liberal Party, then she became an independent, she just left politics, she did an endorsement of Frank. And she told the story how Frank stood for her when nobody else did. When Justin Trudeau did what he did with her. So I'm just saying, Ruby, is this really about what you're saying? Because Frank is there. How come you're not supporting Frank? How come you're making it look like you're the only one of color that was there? Or like, I'm just saying. So it's only the people of color that can see through this whole people of color card playing game that people play. I'm just saying, and Mario, you're really good with your research. So I'm also shocked that you went along with that narrative and not know that there is another person of color who's there. And if you did watch the English debate with her, then you definitely saw FrankBaylis. And you said on this interview you watched the French, so Frank was there as well. And so I don't know how you can look at Frank and not see that he is a person of color. He's mixed race. All you have to do is go on his website and you'll see, oh, he is a person of color. His mother, melanated, dark melanated from Barbados, the Caribbean island. So I'm just kind of watching and I'm just viewing this whole Ruby Dhalla thing in a different lens as a person of color who knows the hypocrisy within that community, and especially from the demographic of Ruby, how they discriminate the other people of color. I'm just saying. So this is Lady O. Stay in action, faith and possibility. Walk in and protect your light. Your purpose will find you. Say what you mean and live like you mean what you say.